A sheep's liver cast life-size in bronze. Its surface is divided into cells like a map of the sky. A farmer turned it up in a field near Gossolengo in northern Italy in 1877. The object dates to the late 2nd or early 1st century before the Common Era. The rim alone carries 16 divisions. Across the body run more than 40 short inscriptions, each naming a god. It is the only inscribed bronze liver model ever found. It now rests in the Civic Museum at Piacenza, the city that gives it its name. This was a teaching instrument. It belonged to a craft that searched the organs of sacrificed animals for the will of the gods. Every line was set with care. Every region held a name and a fixed meaning. What all that precision was for, the bronze does not say. The object has a standard study. L.B. van der Meer published it in 1987. Adriano Maggiani worked out the inscriptions. The templum reading goes back to the object's discovery and has held since. The 16 divisions on the rim are not decoration. They map the templum, the Etruscan division of the sky, onto the surface of the liver. The organ was treated as a small model of the heavens. To read the liver was to read the sky in miniature. The craft itself survives mostly through one text. It is called the Brontoscopic calendar, a day-by-day list of thunder omens. Each day of the year carried its own prediction, drawn from the sound and direction of thunder. No Etruscan copy reached us. The calendar comes down through a chain of hands. An Etruscan original was turned into Latin by Nigidius Figulus, a Roman scholar of the 1st century before the Common Era. His Latin was then carried into Greek by John the Lydian, a Byzantine official of the 6th century of the Common Era. MacIntosh Turfa reconstructed and translated the text in 2012. Consider that chain. The logic of the craft was preserved, but by men standing further and further from it. A Roman antiquarian copied what an Etruscan priesthood had built. A Byzantine clerk then copied the Roman. The record outlived the people who first understood it. It passed into the keeping of outsiders. For the practice, as Rome actually used it, we have a witness from inside. Cicero wrote De Divinatione in the year 44 before the Common Era. He was himself an augur, a member of Rome's official college of divination. He had stood close to this world and watched it work. He knew the haruspices, the specialists who read the livers. He knew what Rome's elite made of them. His account is not hostile gossip. It is testimony from within the system. So the question can go to a man who was there. What was this careful systematic reading for? Cicero's answer is not a description of how the craft worked. It is a verdict on the people performing it. He reports that Rome's educated class no longer believed the haruspices read anything at all. The forms were observed. The conviction was gone. He records a remark of the elder Cato. Cato wondered how two haruspices could meet without laughing. The line is a joke, but Cicero uses it as evidence. The men who carried out the readings, and the men who commissioned them, had stopped trusting the result. The craft continued as procedure. It had lost its claim on belief. Set that against how the system was built. Hepatoscopy read the liver as a model of the divided sky. The reader found a mark or a flaw in one of the named regions. He then read its meaning from the god assigned to that cell. The 16 houses on the rim were the frame. The 40-odd named regions were the readable units. The method was exact, technical, and closed to outsiders. Only a trained haruspice could perform it. Only the text and the teacher could make one. A craft that technical lives in two places. It lives in its specialists, and it lives in the texts that train them. It does not live in the wider society that hires it. That was its weakness. Lose the specialists or lose the texts, and the meaning has nowhere to live. The dates show the drift. Rome founded the colony of Placentia in 218 before the Common Era. By the time this bronze liver was cast, the region was Latin, not Etruscan. The object is a late product of the craft. It was cast when haruspice already served Rome, not a living Etruscan state. The specialists worked in Rome as an imported technical priesthood. The Senate still summoned them, and still referred public portents to them for handling. The sessions themselves are easy to reconstruct. A haruspice leans over the liver before Roman magistrates. His hands move correctly. He names the regions in the old order. The men watching keep the gesture and have lost the grammar. The performance stays intact. The shared understanding that once gave it sense is no longer in the room. This did not happen by a single stroke. No edict abolished the meaning of the craft. It thinned by transmission. As haruspice passed from Etruscan civic life into Roman service, its grounding community shrank. Those who held the meaning grew older, fewer, and more foreign to the men who hired them. The form was retained because the institution found it useful. The reasoning behind the form was not passed on with it. The result is the object on the table. The precision survived, the meaning did not. The instrument outlasted the competence that once made it legible. The pattern is older than Etruria. Liver reading was practiced across the ancient Near East long before the Piacenza bronze was cast. The clearest parallel sits in the archives of Hattusa, the Hittite capital in Anatolia. There, archaeologists have found liver models in clay marked and divided for instruction. The Etruscan reader worked in bronze. The method was the same. The same organ read the same way, 1,000 years and 2,000 kilometers apart. The resemblance is close enough to have driven a long scholarly debate over a direct connection. The Hittites ran a deep apparatus of divination. They practiced extispacy, the reading of entrails. They kept oracle procedures with their own technical names, recorded on the clay tablets found at Boazkoi. These were not casual readings. They followed fixed rules that took years to learn. The work belonged to a trained caste. Gary Beckman and Itamar Singer have shown how specialized that knowledge was and how closely it was guarded. Whether the craft reached Etruria by migration or by contact remains unresolved. This episode does not settle it. The point is structural. Both were esoteric systems held by experts legible only from inside. A second case sits much later. Official divination in the Roman and Byzantine world also outlived its meaning. The reading of public signs continued as ceremony into late antiquity. The framework that once gave it force had drained away. By then the signs were read because the calendar of state required it, not because anyone expected an answer. The acts were still performed. The belief that had animated them had thinned to form. Across all three, the same structure holds. A reading craft can survive as ritual long after the understanding that created it has gone. Return to the bronze on the table. It is precise. Its 16 regions are intact. A trained reader could still move across it in the correct order. What is gone is the meaning of the reading. The people who used it last no longer knew what it was for. This is the shape of the failure. A warning craft concentrates its knowledge in a small expert caste. An institution keeps the craft for its own reasons. The form is preserved and the understanding is not. The apparatus goes on working after it has stopped meaning anything. Call it the craft that outlived its meaning. A record can survive in full while the mind that could read it disappears. The Etruscan liver kept every line. The reading kept every step. The only thing missing was the knowledge of what any of it was warning against. Subscribe to Omen History for more forensic studies of the warning signs civilizations recorded and failed to read.